to let you know that this webinar will be recorded. Okay, so thank you everyone for joining today's call. Good morning, good afternoon. My name is Florence Mugi. I'm the Resilient Watersheds Coordinator with the Nature Conservancy. I'm also the Network Coordinator for the Watersheds for Africa Network, as well as the host for the webinar today. So again, I'll say Happy New Year to those we haven't met, and Happy Valentine's Day to you all. And talking of the month of love, the greater question is, how are we showing our Mother Nature love from now going onwards? So today we'll hear from a team in Sierra Leone, both from the government and the NGO perspective. But before that, we'll have a few announcements. So I'll share my screen. And before I can start with the announcements, kindly put in your name, the country you are calling in from, and the organization on the chat, so that we can get to know you and interact. We are many of us, so we'll not be able to introduce ourselves individually, but we'll be glad to see who is joining and from where on the chat. So I'm trying to see if anyone is able to locate the chat and just introduce yourself going forward. Great. As we do that, I'll give a few announcements, and one of them is our bi-monthly newsletter, which looks like something on the right side, which we said every 2 months. The last was in December 2022, where we had great updates on the source water protection work that is currently ongoing in the Africa region. Kindly look at it and feel free to give us feedback on any item that pops in your mind or any question about our work. The other one is our free online courses. I'll never stop insisting on these because it gives a highlight of what Watersheds model is. When we say Watersheds for Africa Network, what do we mean? It will give you a highlight on the Watersheds process of development and how stakeholders engagement, business case, among others, are considered and developed in different stages of the watershed. So we have 2 courses. They are both available and free, and they have a certificate, and they take less than 3 hours to complete each of the course. So the other important resource that we have is our Watersheds Toolbox page, which is free access. You don't need to log in, you just go in there and you can find different resources, including business cases, including technical reports, monitoring plan, among other documents that have been developed by the other over 44 watersheds across the globe. So feel free to drop by and see what you have in the toolbox. So if you would like any of your colleagues to join Watersheds for Africa Network, kindly you can refer them. I'll share a link in the chat later. And again, just to mention that this call is being recorded, and I encourage everyone to use the chat button where we can share comments, questions, or type R in case you would like to ask question at the end of the speakers. So if you would like to ask a question live, you can raise your hand or type R in the chat, or type your question and I'll prompt you to ask your question later. The other important announcement is that we are expanding our leadership with 2 extra volunteers and members to join our steering committee. Thank you for everyone who represents his or her region in the steering committee to provide leadership to the Watersheds for Africa Network and support our growth. The 2 additional members are Mary Batman from Tanzania. She's the country director for Farm Africa. You can be able to read more about her in our newsletter that I encourage everyone to go back to for December. Their bios are there, together with Karin Zabao, who is the Urban Resilience Director with the Catholic Relief Services in Sierra Leone. Thank you, Karin and Mary, and welcome to the team. So today's webinar structure will be as follows, giving the announcement and the welcoming. We'll have Director General Junisa Bagali introducing the Honorable Minister for Water and Resources in Sierra Leone. And then we'll be followed by a quick Q&A with the Minister. So kindly line up the questions you would like to ask the Honorable Minister. And then we'll have a deep dive into what the Western Area Peninsula Watershed is doing in Sierra Leone, what they have achieved. And again, you'll have a chance to ask questions at the end of these. So again, I encourage everyone to type their questions in the chat to avoid not remembering the question, or type R or raise your hand in case you would like to ask a question. Otherwise, I will encourage everyone to remain muted. So to start us off, I'll invite Director General Junisa Bagali, who is from the Natural Water Resources Management Agency in Sierra Leone, to introduce the Honorable Minister for Water and Resources, who will be our first speaker for today. Honorable Junisa, I'm assuming you can be able to hear me. Junisa Bagali. I think he just dropped. I had a quick chat with him a few minutes earlier. So before he can rejoin, I would encourage everyone to type in their names, the organization they represent, as well as where they are calling in from. And I can see Director General Junisa is back.
Thank you.
Please go ahead and introduce our Honorable Minister.
Good afternoon from Sierra Leone. My name is Junisa Patrick Bangali. I am the Director General for the National Water Resources Management Agency, which is the lead government agency in Sierra Leone for the establishment of the Western Area Peninsula Water Fund. My role here is to introduce and present our speaker for today's webinar. Our speaker for today is both a professional engineer and a professional project manager. As a way of experience, our speaker is a qualified civil engineer with a specialty in water engineering. Our speaker has experience in organizational management, contract and project, program development and management, civil engineering design, and design review for over 35 years in the private, public, and NGO sectors combined. He has a membership of professional bodies. Our speaker is a professional engineer with the Engineering Council of South Africa, ECSA. He also has a project management professional PMP credential with the Project Management Institute. In South Africa, he served as regional office manager and principal engineer for engineering firms, and served as a water and sanitation technical and management consultant to both national and local government departments. He currently serves as an assessor and interviewer and moderator for the Engineering Council of South Africa, ECSA. In this capacity, he assesses engineers' eligibility to register as professional engineers with ECSA. Our speaker is also a fellow of the Sierra Leone Institution of Engineers. He also serves as a member of the Sierra Leone Professional Engineering Regulatory Council. In Sierra Leone, our speaker in the NGO sector served as project manager, program manager, and WASH national sector coordinator. In the public sector, he served as the Director General for the Sierra Leone Water Company. The Sierra Leone Water Company is a company that provides a pipe-borne water outside of Freetown, Sierra Leone, twice in that capacity. During these years, he acquired experience in the design of water and sanitation infrastructure, in project management and civil engineering, infrastructure construction, in the management of infrastructure institutions, and in technical and management support to municipalities. Ladies and gentlemen, our speaker is the current Minister of Water Resources in Sierra Leone and has been very much instrumental in the establishment of the Western Area Peninsula Water Fund. He is currently the Vice Chairman for the Water Fund Steering Committee, the highest decision-making body for the Water Fund in Sierra Leone. On this note, I present to you Engineer Philip Karimu Lansana, our speaker for today's webinar. I thank you so very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Director General of the National Water Resources Management Agency, Mr. Bangali. It's really a great pleasure and honor for participating in this webinar on why taking care of water sources is everyone's business, and for giving me the opportunity to make the opening statement. Of all the resources required for sustaining ecosystems and the services they provide for human health and well-being, water is arguably the most important in contrast to all other resources. No living organism can survive in the complete absence of water, making it an essential ingredient necessary for all life as we know it. Before I continue, let me first say greetings to everybody, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and I hope we'll get all that it takes from this webinar. Of all the resources required, I think I've gone through that, the results of misusing water resources and the resulting ecosystem degradation and its impact on ecosystem services illustrates the negative impacts of non-sustainable water use. Water systems are very sensitive to human activities in their surrounding drainage basins. Ladies and gentlemen, please note that fresh water is a finite and vulnerable resource, and the need to integrate the water plans and programs for different water use sectors into social and economic policies on a national scale is very important. The government of Sierra Leone's new direction agenda for national development is built on 8 strategic drivers, including water and sanitation, with special focus on increasing access to improve water supply and sanitation services and hygiene. It is estimated that Sierra Leone stands to derive 15% of our GDP from reaching universal access to water and sanitation. Therefore, the government is very passionate about the sector and taking tangible actions to transform it. Sierra Leone is blessed with an astute leader, His Excellency the President, retired Brigadier Julius Madabio, who is committed to the growth of the country in all manifest by his visit to the Buma Dam and the surrounding areas where there has been massive deforestation. After his visit, he instructed the deployment of security personnel, suspension of all human activities in the protected area, and that an investigation be carried out to establish how lands within the protected area are allocated to people, and appropriate measures be taken to prevent and reverse destruction done to the forest cover. This investigation has been completed and recommendations have been effected. Before his visit, the President has set up an interministerial committee, catchment protection in the Western Area Peninsula, because of human activities devastating the ecosystem through the reduction of the forest cover. This interministerial committee is to ensure human activities are discontinued in the protected forest area. In addition to this, Cabinet approved the governance structure of the Western Area Peninsula Water Fund, which includes representatives from government, private sector, civil society, and donor partners. The Chief Minister is the chair of the steering committee of the Western Area Peninsula Water Fund, deputized by the Minister of Water Resources, which is me. Government's strategic actions towards increasing access to improved water supply and sanitation services in the Greater Freetown Area include the implementation of the Freetown Water Supply and Sanitation Master Plan and Investment Studies Project, and the Freetown Wash and Aquatic Environmental Revamping Project. Late last year, the Ministry of Water Resources, in collaboration with the Ministry of Finance, the master plan was launched by the Honorable Vice President, Dr. Mohamed Jara. In Freetown Water Supply and Sanitation Master Plan and Investment Studies, the project seeks to prepare effective and efficient short and medium-term investment projects for the water supply and sanitation system in Greater Freetown, and to facilitate the mobilization of the necessary financial resources to incrementally meet the water supply and sanitation needs of the city. While the Freetown Wash and Aquatic Environment Revamping Project aims at improving the socio-economic and environmental conditions of the urban and peri-urban population of the Greater Freetown Western Area through improved access to sustainable wash infrastructure and services. The wash project is expected to contribute about 15% increase in access to safe water supply and 7% increase in access to improved sanitation in Sierra Leone. What came out very clearly in the Freetown Master Plan is that not one single source can provide adequate water for the growing population of the peninsula. It has to be a combination of sources, including water catchment areas in the protected area of the peninsula. The water catchment areas in the protected area of the peninsula is the major source of water for the residents of the peninsula, currently providing 90% of its water source. Unfortunately, these catchment areas, though protected by law, are under serious threat by human activities leading to massive deforestation of the catchment areas. The only solution we have is to effect the laws and take necessary action to protect these catchment areas. To be able to undertake this venture, we need funds and immediate action. Hence, there is no better time than now for the Western Area Peninsula Water Fund. Once well established, the Western Area Peninsula Water Fund will solve perennial challenges of water, sanitation, equity, and can be an enabler for development. The Australian government is committed to this fund. That is why, in addition to approving this governance structure, it made a commitment in providing the seed funding. The only option we have is the restoration of the ecosystem to very close to original form. There are a number of case studies that clearly shows the benefits of ecosystem restoration. These include, but not limited to, case studies in Asia, India, Sweden, USA, Europe, South Africa, Argentina, Panama, Thailand, and Korea. I look forward to the Sierra Leone case study using the Western Area Peninsula Water Fund. I would like to congratulate the Nature Conservancy and CRS for organizing this very important webinar on why taking care of water sources is everyone's business. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, after this event, we should go into action immediately to ensure that the ecosystems are restored in the Western Area Peninsula using the Western Area Peninsula Water Fund. I thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, sir, for those great words on why it is important and why now. So if you have any question or comment, kindly put it on chat as we continue with the webinar. And also feel free to raise your hand in case you would like to ask your question live. So the person who will be sharing the case study for the Western Area Peninsula Water Fund is Ada, who is an agro-environmental engineer with over 10 years experience. Ada has worked in agriculture, hydrology, water management, biodiversity, and climate change in Sierra Leone for national and international farms. Other has led community resilience projects in climate change, including mangrove restorations and nature-based solutions in community forests and in protected areas. Aldal has participated in community engagement and awareness raising in climate change adaptation and mitigation activities, and he has a wealth of experience in environmental social impact assessment. Currently, Other leads the WaterFads program, is the WaterFads advisor in Sierra Leone, Freetown. So Other, if you're able to share your screen, let me know if you can't. Adal, can you hear me?
Yes. Hello, Florence. Yes, I'm trying to share the screen now.
Great.
Florence. Hello.
Yes, we can see the screen, but we can see Zoom.
Hello.
Yes, Adal, we can hear you.
Yes, is my screen online now?
We can see your screen via a browser on Zoom, but not the presentation.
All right, then I will suggest you support me in sharing the screen, please.
That's okay. You can drop your screen. Okay, great. I can see the minister's hand is up. Is that intentional?
Yes.
Please go ahead.
It's intentional. I just want to know whether how do I respond to the questions? I've seen some questions already.
Yes, please. Sorry, yes, there is a question on chat. I missed this. So we had a question from Fred Kihara, who asked, having served as a team leader for the large water community in Sierra Leone, what message would you give water company CEOs in Africa who are faced with water quality challenges due to destruction of land cover in their source watersheds? And he also adds another one, has the science in the business case been helpful in defining which areas are priority for impact and determining where to invest scarce resources? You can go ahead and answer the questions.
Okay, the first one is that I'll just give a simple one example. We have the university college here, the Frobe College. 20 years ago, when I was in that college, the water supply which was there did a very little treatment. If I just need to disinfect the water, but now they had to get a plant to filter the water. So they have to add chemicals, etc. It has become very expensive in supplying water to the university students because you need to manage that plant. So for me, the major thing they should do really is to try to protect their source so that the human activity in that source should be reduced. Otherwise, the cost of operation will be very expensive. The second question, whether there has been improvement in the business case that was developed for the water fund, yes, indeed, there has been. And that is why we are all hands on deck to make sure that we implement it. It's not only my ministry and the chief minister, but we have other ministers, about 9 ministers who are involved in this to ensure that we have that business case implemented. But maybe when it's presented, you look at it, then you see that indeed it makes a lot of sense, science in that business case. Thank you very much. I don't know whether I answered your question.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Fred Kihara, do you have a follow-up, or was the question well addressed?
Thank you very much, Florence. And I want to take this chance to not thank just thank the Minister for the response, but also for making time to join us and for such a great speech and for such inspiration to see the level of commitment his government and the government of His Excellency has put to make sure that that we can move fast with securing water for Sierra Leone, and it becomes a great example as the first water fund in West Africa. So at this moment, I'm totally happy with the response. I want to say thank you very much for the response, and again also for Honorable Minister and members of the government of Sierra Leone making time to join us at this hour. Florence, you could move on to the presentation.
Thank you, Fred. And thank you for that alert on the question on chat. So Alda, I'm going to share your slides. Let me know if you can see them.
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, please go ahead.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, distinguished guests. As you've joined, it's important that we continue the conversation, and it's important to have your questions, and it's also important to have your comments in the chat box as we move along. Thanks, Florian, for the introduction. I'm Arthur, by the way, and I'm delighted to be participating in this call this afternoon. Next slide, please. So, the Western Area Peninsula Water Fund is very important for Sierra Leone, for Freetown especially. And this Western Area Peninsula Water Fund, is found within the national park. This national park is a protected forest reserve occupying 18,000 hectares of Sierra Leone's western region and lies south of the national capital, Freetown. So the Western Area National Park further entails the Kumo Valley Water Reserve, which is built to deliver water to 1.7 million people in Freetown. The Western Area Peninsula Forest plays a very essential role in supplying water and in maintaining water quality. So therefore, this forest serves as a natural water collection, filtration, and delivery system. Forested catchments in this peninsula provides about 90% water supply in Freetown. As you can see in the map here, we are comparing two scenarios. We are in the land cover change in 2016 and that which will happen in 2025. 2016, you can see we have shrub, grasslands, and have some, the dark brown is representing built up areas. And moving to the left, you will see that the built up areas is expanding. And this built up area will expand until the reservoir in the center, is crowded up and is left bare. So therefore, there's an urgent need to support all actions geared towards restoring this forested area, and as well all actions geared towards protecting the remaining forest cover we have in this area. As at 2060 hectares, of land we are deforested, and from 2015 to 2022, the region lost 1,200 hectares of humid primary forest. So it is estimated that by 2050, we'll lose 5,100 hectares of primary forest if urgent action is not taken. So without this forest, Freetown and the rest of the peninsula will experience their water insecurity and more landslides will occur. Next slide, please. I'm sure I have an audience here that is very much knowledgeable about the water fund, but at the same time, some guests, this should be this is their first time hearing what it's meant by water fund. So the water fund is a funding and governance mechanism that enables water users to provide financial and technical support collectively in catchment restoration alongside upstream communities. So together, we have a primary goal, which is to contribute towards water security. And together as well, we are trying to unite public, the private, and the communities at local level. So it's a partnership endeavor where in the public, private, and up on board, sustainable intervention mechanisms. Next slide, please. I would like to talk briefly about the importance of this water fund. The water fund program, as you've heard from the Honorable Minister, it aligns with the existing government initiatives. The government of Sierra Leone has a lot of initiatives that covers forest, that covers water, clean and quality water supply, and as well initiatives that cover community engagement and livelihood support. So this water fund program aligns itself rightfully, with these initiatives, and so that's why it's no surprise that the government of Sierra Leone have warmly, accepted this project and is in full support. As well, effective catchment management is very crucial for this for the survival of the water fund, because Freetown is experiencing accelerated deforestation, as we've seen in the previous slide. So it is important, and as well, keeping the forest cover in place will also stimulate funding and implementation, because this is all what the water fund is about. It brings together all water users and other stakeholders to support the funding generation, as well interventions that will ensure sustainability of the forest cover. And internationally, you can see that the water fund makes a significant contribution to the UN SDGs, like SDG 6, 11, 13, and 15. It also supports Convention on Biodiversity, and it also supports Convention on Climate Change. As you've heard earlier about the business case, just like any other business establishments, require a business plan. So from the business case, we have scientifically studied why water fund and what impact the water fund will create. And so it has a very positive return on investment that is measuring, the effectiveness of an investment. So from the business case, we are certain, we are sure that if we implement the scenarios suggested by the conservation scenarios, we will have a very good return, very good benefits on conservations. Next slide, please. So here we are showing you the benefits of the water fund. I would like you to understand that we have two reservoirs already in the Freetown Peninsula National Park. We have the Guma Reservoir, and as well we have the Congo Reservoir. And continuing business as usual, we'll experience low water shortages as we are experiencing now, because now in Sierra Leone, we have two seasons. We have the rains and the dries. So now, because the high rate of deforestation, a lot of water shortages is experienced in Freetown. So implementing the conservation scenario will have elongated the lifespan of the two reservoirs, the Guma and the Congo Dam reservoirs respectively. And as well, if we continue business as usual, a lot of emissions, a lot of bushfire, we will see that 3.53 metric tons of carbon is released, in the air. And as well, implementing the conservation scenarios will capture 8.6 million tons of carbon. And as well, talking of urbanization, you see, 197% will be lost due to urban expansion. But implementing the conservation scenario, we will have reforested 17,000 hectares of land. So there are also indications that if we continue business as usual, by the time we are in the year 2050, we will have lost 1/3 of the primary forest cover that we have now. And so these are very important indications to show you the importance of the conservation scenario in contrast to the business as usual. Next slide, please. So a good foundational setting for the water fund is the governance structure. The governance structure is like this. High up the ladder, we have the steering committee, which which is headed by the chief minister. The chief minister supervises all ministers in the country. So he's the chair, and the vice is the Honorable Minister of Water Resources. And so we have the Water Fund Secretariat. This Water Fund Secretariat is housed by the National Water Resource Management Agency, which is an agency under the Ministry of Water Resources. And so from there, we also have four wide committees. We have the Social Mobilization Committee, we have the Technical Committee, Resource Mobilization Committee, and then the Monitoring and Enforcement Committee. So all of these committees have well-defined roles and responsibilities, and these committees are composed of stakeholders from the public, private, and as well right down to the community level. And talking of the community level, we have catchment management committees in all of the critical communities where we operate. So the technical part of it is a wide range of resource. We have wide range of diverse stakeholders contributing weekly. We have weekly meetings. We have monthly meetings wherein we assess situations, wherein we discuss actions required, and then everyone will make an input, and then we go to the field. It is basically community-led. So that is why the catchment management committees are never left behind. You know, they have representations right across the structure, the governance structure. As the minister highlighted earlier, the cabinet paper was approved, and this structure is well in place. We have additionally been engaging the private sector. Just last week, we engaged water users, primary water manufacturers, you know, in the country, to talk with them, to let them understand more about the water fund, and to market ourselves to them to see how they can come in and contribute to the conservation scenario efforts we are implementing. And also formalization of the public-private governance mechanism that will oversee the water fund. This is also in progress, and thanks to all of our supporters for this great work. Next slide, please. We have challenges, you know, it's not all rosy, and encroachment is a major challenge because of because of the locality of this waterfront peninsula. It is very, very attractive, you know, for charcoal burning, for housing. It is a place wherein people would love to inhabit because of the hilly nature, because of the cool air, the fresh forest that is there. So it's very attractive for housing purposes. And as well, we see that artisanal and mechanized stone mining is a major practice out there. And we also have marijuana farming because of a lot of water causes in this water sources in this peninsula. So it is used for marijuana farming during the rains and as well during the dry seasons. And another challenge is the porosity of the walls. Of course, this is a protected area. You will argue with me that, of course, it's a protected area. So therefore, encroachment and things like this, you know, should not be happening. But I'm telling that, you know, the walls are porous. And because right from the community level, we can see that the communities are looking for livelihood that are not environmental friendly, livelihood that are not sustainable. And so they will go to the forest and cut sticks and cut timbers and export, and as well do charcoal production. At national level, again, we have porous walls because there are agencies responsible for protecting these resources, agencies responsible for regulating these resources. But because of the porous nature, investors do come and have this license and have these permissions to carry on work in the protected area. So these are crucial challenges faced by the water fund. Next slide, please. You will argue with me, or you would like to ask what's the sustainability part of this project? Well, it's a very sustainable project because of the way it has been set up, and the government's commitment, because the government have committed 10%, which is approximately $2 million of the $20 million required to finance the waterfront. So we have a strong government commitment. So because of that, we are sure it's a sustainable project, and we have a robust resource mobilization plan, which focuses on galvanizing resources from private and public sector, and as well carbon credits. We are exploring the potential of selling the carbon stock we have in this peninsula park. So it's still in its infancy stage. Pre-feasibility studies will be conducted so that we can have a good understanding of what we have and whether it's eligible in the carbon market for sales. And these funds can as well come back and support the waterfront basket, and as well provide, support the interventions, the nature-based interventions that we are talking about. The peninsula is rightly situated next to in Freetown, and so because of this, there is a high tourist potential. So we can as well build eco lodges, and these lodges will in turn bring financing that will support the waterfront basket. So we are sure and we are certain with these strategies, the waterfront program is a sustainable one that will stand the test of time and that will arguably provide enough financing for implementing the conservation scenarios we have in the business case. Next slide, please. What are some of the achievements? Because we have been working for 2 years now, and we have developed a robust business case document which explains really, which says scientifically, which says socially, all aspects considered, all scenarios evaluated and assessed, that yes, it's beneficial to have the waterfront, and the waterfront is a profitable investment that will not only solve the water insecurity challenges in Freetown, but will as well provide good resource for intervention, good resource for restoration, and as well provide good resource, good livelihood for the local communities where this protected area is found. So we have a participatory design and setting up of waterfront government structure. This was well done, and it was supported right across the board, from all sectors in the waterfront program. So we have piloted demarcation project in 4 catchments and completed physical demarcations, at number 2. And so physical demarcation and fencing, are strategies used to prevent or to reduce the high rates of encroachment. And so as well, we have intensive stakeholder engagement, and this is going on. And because of this intensive engagement, we have wide popularization of the waterfront project, and we have wide acceptance right across Sierra Leone. Next slide, please. And so through the CRS, we have as well implemented. We have as well implemented a lot of programs through the support of the Secretariat, which is the National Water Resource Management Agency, and we have formalized catchment management committees. As we know, these committees are local level, and they have been registered, they have been formalized, and continuing training, continuing sensitization, so that right at the community level, we will build a capacity for them to be able to take up protection of this park themselves. Community-led tree planting is also another important activity that we have undertaken. Last year alone, we spent about we planted 19,000 trees, in the Bobo community. So we hope to continue the restoration efforts, and so we are planning to scale up restoration efforts in Bobo, Mile 13, and the rest of number 2. These 3 communities are very crucial communities, and they are nearby the reservoirs, the Guma Reservoir. So that's why they are like the pilot communities, and success stories and lessons learned will be escalated to other 15 or 22 communities will intervene. Next slide, please. So far, so good. We have a partner, which is the Nature Conservancy. The Nature Conservancy have been very supportive, right from funding the business case and now as well funding the waterfront project. They are very supportive in ensuring that waterfronts are established in not only Africa but globally, right from the Asias to the North and South Americas. And Sierra Leone is one leading, waterfront program in West Africa. And another important partner, we'll say, is the government of Sierra Leone, been very supportive, giving us the enabling environment to implement these interventions as well to support. And not forgetting the Secretariat, which is the National Water Resource Management Agency. They are like where this whole waterfront program is hosted. So we're not like the waterfront business to be a CIS business or to be a nature conservancy business, but the government itself is taking ownership, and there is a strong and robust, vigilant, dynamic secretariat we have there that is helping to push forward, all the actions and interventions. So for the resources, here is the link. You can see that you can download the business case for further reading. And for further contact and communications, that's my contact details. And you can as well contact the Nature Conservancy for more questions. So thank you very much for paying attention to the presentation. And I'm sure we will have some good questions in place. And we'll be happy to respond to these questions. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Alda, for the good presentation, very comprehensive. So I'm looking through to see questions. So kindly type your question on chat or just raise your hand for any comment or to ask your question live. In case you would like myself to ask the question for you, kindly type it on the chat. So we have one question from Colin. Colin, would you like to ask it live?
Sure. Great presentation, Arthur. Thank you so much. Just checking in on Colin Apps from the Nature Conservancy and checking in on what you see as your highest priority interventions for the next few years to get momentum for the Western Area Peninsula Water Fund.
Thank you, Colin. Alda?
They have one priority intervention is protection of the Peninsula Park, because in the midst of the advancements we are making, we are still experiencing accelerated deforestation, still experiencing a lot of disturbances in the project intervention area. So protection, active protection is a priority intervention. And as well, restoration is another priority intervention, because we are trying to ensure that in the midst of climate change, we protect the reservoirs by increasing, the canopy cover, such that these large forests can as well support trapping rainfall that will eventually lead to filling up of the reservoirs, so we can have water during the dry season. Law enforcement is a very crucial one as well, because we have the regulations, not that these regulations are not there. We have water regulations, we have forest regulations, they are all there. So trying, advocating, pushing, for robust law enforcement is another crucial intervention we would like over the next 2 years, to put in place and to support the sustainability of the waterfront program. Thank you.
Thank you, Ada. And thank you, Colin, for that question. So I'm policing through to see if there is any other question or I had raised, just that I don't miss it. But in the meantime, okay, there is a question. Nelson, would you like to ask the question live? If not, I can read it out. So the question is, do you envisage more formal participation by the private sector in the form of public-private partnership?
I'm here now, Florence, if you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Yes.
Good
no,
to hear your voice.
The background of the question is that in lots of water projects, the private sector is not present in any substantial form. So there are ways of bringing private sector resources into the picture. And one way of doing that is public-private partnerships, PPPs. So I was wondering if, first of all, is that concept even well understood amongst your colleagues? And if so, what is their reaction to that? Thanks.
Yes, thank you very much for this interesting question. As I presented in the presentation last week, we had a meeting, with the private sector, mostly water users, and they have, buy the idea, and they have seen the importance of protecting the natural resource, the raw material, which is used for their brewing. So they have expressed, interest in the waterfront project, and we will follow up with that, and we'll see that they are brought in this program. And as well, I should mention that the private sector is an integral part of the technical committee. So they are in this committee, and they have good representations. So now it's like formalizing, according to your question, like formalizing the relationship and to see how, they can take ownership. But it's highly considered, and we have identified a lot of water users, but not just water users, other private sectors that are very much interested in conservation activities and in water security in Sierra Leone. So yes, we are considering their involvement in the waterfront program.
Thank you, Ada, for that great answer. And thank you, Nelson, for that question. It's really great to understand and hear why we say waterfalls are public-private partnership and what we are doing as all stakeholders from the NGO world all to the government to engage everyone in HUD. Honorable Minister, your hand is up. Do you want to contribute to the same?
Yes, thank you very much. Excuse me, Florence. And I want to say that when this waterfront was set up, we, if you look at the business case and even the structure of the waterfront, it's not only government, it's not only one sector, but we looked at all sectors to be involved in it, including government, including private sector, including the civil society, and even the donor agencies or donor partners. They are all part of this water fund. So it's not only one sector that is dealing with the water fund. We recognize the fact that there is need for the participation of private sector. In fact, in country, we have a number of programs wherein we have very strong participation of the private sector. So also we also look up to the contribution of the private sector in that fund works. Yes, to answer to that question, really, there is a strong participation with the private sector. Not only he spoke about a meeting that was held some few days ago, but even when we are trying to really set up the water fund, we had another meeting where we invited not only the water users, but all private sector that has interest in water supply. They are all there, and they contributed immensely in that meeting. I think private sector has a role to play, and I think we should make sure that we make sure that we make the best use of the private sector. And that's all I have to say to this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for that great answer. So the other question we have on chat is from Jean Debus. Can you tell about, okay, can you tell us about the ideas that I'll discuss to ensure that, in particular, populations residing in the protected areas and who has made efforts to protect the watershed also benefit from the water flood interventions? Just to summarize it, he is asking, in particular, what are some of the activities that are intended to benefit the people residing in the specific watershed areas? Ada?
Yes, already the inhabitants, in the waterfront areas have been benefiting from the community-led restoration activities. This is a sustainable livelihood activity. And as well, from the law enforcement part, we are having discussions, to bring some of these community people to be volunteers, to work alongside the game guards, the rangers, as you call it in other places, so they can be volunteers. And tourism, ecotourism is another opportunity for these people, in the forest edge communities to have livelihood activities, so they can be employed, as tourist guides. They can be employed as housekeepers. You understand? They can be managers, in these ecotourism infrastructures that the waterfront, will develop over time. And additionally, we are thinking of how they can benefit from WASH programs, because you attest, or you will agree with me, that some of these communities do not have access to pipe-borne water. Though the water resource is within reach, but they don't have access to pipe-borne water. So we are having discussions as well as to how we can develop safe, clean water drinking facilities for some of these intervention areas.
Thank you so much, Ada, for those answers. And thank you all for the questions. One more question that is not specific to the Western Area Peninsula, but to East Africa. Mostly, I think, Colin, would you like to help us answer that?
The question on Kenya?
Yes.
Yeah, so the initiative water funds and this public-private partnership model is very much available in East Africa. We've got the most mature model, or most mature one, being the Upper Tana Nairobi Water Fund, which is run by an independent trust and focuses on Nairobi's water supply. The Eldoret E10 Water Fund is just starting its implementation to benefit the Eldoret E10 area. ELDOWAS, the water utility, is the lead, and TNC is supporting that with some funding from the Global Environment Facility. And there's a Mombasa Water Fund in development, as well as a Congo Water Fund in Tanzania, coastal Tanzania, in development. And particularly in Kenya, but also elsewhere in East Africa, examining ways in which we can expand upon that. There's a River Yala effort in Kenya, and other efforts in development. So the Nature Conservancy, through this network and through the Nature for Water facility and other approaches, is available to help support projects that want to try to use this model or modifications of this model.
Thank you, Colin. If you have further questions regarding either of our work in any other place, kindly feel free to send me an email just to share more information on the other work that we are doing that might be of interest to you. So I think we might take one last question or two. And there is a question from Raymond. Raymond is asking about the youth engagement in the protection and conservation of water, and are there any health concerns for the people in the waterfront? Ada, are you able to answer this, or is there anyone from your team who can support you?
Yes, already we have these catchment management committees, and these committees comprises youth groups, comprises women groups, comprises the aged as well, and so there is a diversity in the composition of these groups, and they are the lead when it comes to restoration activities, when it comes to locating locating barriers, finding a place where to do the barriers. So they are also present in it, and as well the sensitization and awareness raising activities. So this committee taking the lead in these sensitization engagements, because youth can better understand something from another youth. So these peer interactions, these peer group connections are also very supporting in helping to bring down, the awareness, bring down the sensitization and behavioral change message, for protecting the waterfront. And additionally, no, we have not experienced any health concerns because these places are predominantly primary forest. And for areas where there are vast deforestation, vast conversion to agricultural lands, they mostly use the organic, that is the chicken or pig dung, for fertilizers. So there have not been reported cases of health concerns in these reservoirs or in these streams that the community people use for water supply.
Thank you, Ada, for that. The other question is from Megan. Megan, would you like to ask your question live? Okay, so the question from Megan is, as it relates to drinking water specifically, is there any plan in place for water treatment at either the source or point of correction?
We have the Guma Valley Water Company, which is the government-supported company for water treatment and distribution. So though there are challenges with the Guma Valley Water Company, challenges in that their daily demand is about 130,000 metric, 130,000 meter cube of water per day. They only supply 75,000 meter cube, so cubic meters. So they have this challenge, and looking at their constraints, we also see that wastages, along the delivery system is a primary reason why they are faced with this water shortage. And so Guma Valley is also a part of the technical committee, and they are very active and supportive. So actually, we don't have, as now, any intervention towards water delivery or increasing the capacity. But what the restoration does is that helping Guma Valley to reduce cost of cleaning sedimentation in the dam. Because with this deforestation, every year Guma pays a lot of money to remove the debris, that enters the reservoirs. So we, from the business case, have envisaged that if a lot of trees are planted, if we reforest these the graded areas, a lot of trees can be placed to reduce the runoff that will eventually lead to siltation of the dams. So this is one way the water supply company, will benefit from the waterfront intervention.
Thank you, Ada. Honourable Minister, would you like to contribute to that?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think the question had to do with whether we do treatment at source or whether we do treatment at the supply point. If you look at our designs, our supply systems, we try as much as possible to have the treatment plant very close to the source. The current Guma Valley Dam has got a treatment plant very close to the source. And very recently, it has been rehabilitated. But it is almost like new. And so we don't really have much problem with the treatment of the water. What Arthur was talking to was the quantity of water that is available to the people. But the question was asking for the quality of water available to the people. So this, to answer that question really is to say that we treat water very close to the source so that when water is being supplied, those on the line will get water rather than the water going in. If it, for instance, if you treat it very far away, you may have to bring the water back to the water to be left behind. So try to get the treatment plant as very close to the source as possible. We did the same thing for the Congo, the Babadori area. The Babadori area also, which is a different area from where the Kuma Dam is, we have another treatment plant there. So the moment they get water from the source, it goes onto the treatment plant. Once it's treated, it's then supplied to the people. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. I think we'll ask one more question. Colin stated a comment for someone who had asked a question about Ethiopia, specific work on green infrastructure in Ethiopia. And he has mentioned that WRI is exploring leading a water fund for Addis. Moges, I think you had asked that question, kindly note that response. Last question, Margaret, would you like to ask your question live? Margaret Dauda. In the meantime, Junisa, you have a question?
Yeah, it is not a question. I wanted to respond to the concern raised by Margaret. She is asking, or she is hoping that she may want to know whether we have a holistic approach across relevant government ministries. I would say when Arthur was presenting the governance structure, he did show you that there is a monitoring and compliance committee. In that monitoring and compliance committee, you have the security forces there, the police is there, the military is there, and also the ONS is there, the Office of National Security. They also form part of that particular committee. She also wants to know whether, and we also have the Ministry of Lands there. Very recently, in our last Water Fund Steering Committee meeting, the chairman requested that we invite the Minister of Lands to be part of the steering committee because that's a high decision-making body. And also in the technical committee, the Ministry of Lands has a representation in that particular committee. So you can see how holistic is there. She's also wanting to know whether the National Disaster Management Agency is supposed to be part of the technical committee. But as I speak, they are also part of the resource mobilization committee because we cannot properly manage a holistic water fund for the Western area if we don't have everybody on board. So to answer directly to your question, all these people, they are there, and those that we have to identify who are supposed to be there, we can also get them on board. Thank you.
Thank you, Junisa, for that answer to Margaret's question. I think now we are coming to the end of the call. So I'm sharing a few resources. So on the chat, I'll put a link to the Water Funds for Africa Network if you were invited by a colleague and you would like to receive the presentation as well as the recordings to this particular webinar and the future webinars. Kindly sign up through that link, and I'll share the recording as well as the presentations and any other materials referred to in these meetings. So also in the chat, Colin has put monitoring and evaluation plan that is in the toolbox. Kindly note that link as well. I'll also paste it in the resources that I'll be sharing together with the recording. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us for this call today on a Valentine's Day. Again, happy Valentine's, and hoping to see you in the next webinar, which is in the next 2 months. So we do this bi-monthly for those who are new. you're welcome to join us by signing up in the link. I also shared an email, africawater@tnc.org or florence.mogi@tnc.org for any comments, question, or if you would like to contribute in the future webinars by either sharing your work or maybe just having someone who can bring some insightful information to our source water protection work across the African region. Thank you, everyone, and have a good day and good evening, depending on where you are. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Florence, thanks.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, good evening.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
See you
Bye
again.
bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.